Tomorrow, President Trump departs Washington to head to China for a two-day summit with Xi Jinping in Beijing. Let's bring in Henrietta Levin, the senior fellow with the Freeman Chair in China Studies for the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Henrietta, thank you so much for being with us. Let's talk about what's at stake in this meeting. We have the war in Iran, AI, and Taiwan. These are just some of the big topics on the agenda. But can you provide some context to this complicated relationship? How do we get here?
The U.S.-China relationship is the most consequential between any two countries on Earth. And we can remember just a year ago, the two countries had an effective trade embargo on each other. There was all-out economic war. And from there, thinking back to the president's last meeting with President Xi in the fall, we saw moves towards stability. We saw both sides in the U.S. and China realize that that level of economic instability was bad for everyone. Both sides sought an off-ramp. And so that's how you get this moment we're in now, where the U.S. and China, as President Trump goes to Beijing, are both looking to institutionalize that stability in the relationship. But beyond that, there are very serious disagreements about what they're looking to get done. President Trump is focused on quick turn commercial arrangements where Americans will feel the impact in the next few months, whereas Xi in China is focused on big strategic moves like Taiwan, like technology, the questions that are going to shape the future of Asia for the 21st century.
Well, let's talk about Taiwan. Beijing maintains, of course, that Taiwan is part of China and has ramped up its military presence around the island in recent years. Is there's some concern that China may try to take Taiwan now, knowing the U.S. is focused so heavily on Iran?
So I don't expect we would see China intentionally invade Taiwan, in the very near term. But that's because they think they have good political options to assert control over the island. Beijing feels like President Trump presents a unique opportunity to them. Trump is much more flexible on Taiwan than any president before him. He's expressed a certain ambivalence. He's been willing to negotiate with China on the future of U.S. arms sales to Taiwan. And so Beijing sees an opportunity. Why would you try and take Taiwan by military force at incredible expense if you can make progress on the cheap? Now, that doesn't mean that there's no military threat against Taiwan. We've seen Beijing undertake very dangerous military exercises around the island. The risk of an accident escalating to conflict is real. And that risk has increased because the U.S. has signaled that it's just not that focused on the issue as it pivots to the Middle East and Iran.
We know China gets much of their oil supply through the Strait of Hormuz, which remains essentially closed. The ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. is fragile, to say the very least. And we know China has been helping Iran when it comes to parts for weapons and especially intelligence. So how is that dynamic going to factor into this meeting as well?
Sure. It's always a good thing for China when the U.S. gets bogged down in another part of the world. I mean, China sees the U.S. burning through missile stockpiles in the Middle East that are important for deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. That's a good thing for China. It's also worth noting China has made a huge point of protecting itself from energy instability for decades. And so now, because they have a ton of coal, they've invested in renewable energy, they're in a much better position than pretty much anyone else in Asia to weather the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. That doesn't mean they want to go on forever, but it means that China feels time is on their side. And so when President Trump goes to China, it seems like he's going to ask for Xi's help. He's going to say China should use its relationship with Iran to force them to make concessions. And unfortunately, I don't think that Xi Jinping is going to be particularly excited to help out the Americans to fix a problem he feels Trump created.
Henrietta Levin, thank you so much.
Thank you.